The H12 Prep Baseball Report.
Welcome to the H12 Prep Baseball Report. I'm Ramon Scott, and joining me as always, Dave Dickens of EastCountySports.com, and on the bench this week here at H12, a couple of Cougars with us, Steele Canyon seniors, ARIAS and TREVOR back. We got a big-time battery in here for this one, and boy, they really did the number on Thursday. A big two-game set this week with the Monte Vista Monarchs, and they split the series. But Dave, you were out there on Thursday and saw TREVOR pitch another complete game, a big 18-4 victory over Monte Vista. What'd you see out there in TREVOR, and what'd you see in the Cougars on that day?
Well, I will say there was a lot of shutting down some Monarchs, no offense, Coach knew. Because you guys eventually split it, obviously. But Billy Tellis went opposite field. TREVOR had a fantastic day on the mound, another complete game in the books. And I even took a Matrix-style foul ball slicer that almost took me out of the dugout. But it was all in good fun. No one got hurt.
Tell us about the complete game, TREVOR. I mean, another complete game. This team relies on you, and obviously that was the big game. You wanted to start off the series with the Monarchs with a win.
Yeah, it started out a little rough at first. It took me a while to get going, but once we got it, got the tempo going, worked quick, which had them off balance, and we just took it straight from the third inning. We had plenty of run support, so yeah.
Luke, who was hot with the bats that day, everyone was hitting 18 runs, and I hesitate to say that maybe you put a little bit too much of a beating on the Monarchs the way they came back today. But how about Thursday's game? 18 runs. Who was hitting good out there?
Aaron Taylor is really good. He's on fire right now. I think he's batting above 400. He's doing really good. Tellis is on fire too. He's got 3 home runs in his last 3 games. He's turning it on. It's great because we're nearing the end of the season. We just got to keep going.
Yeah, and I saw that line drive shot that Billy, you talked about, that he hit over the short porch. And that's an old slow pitch trick. I was reading about what you were saying about hitting that backspin, hitting kind of underneath the ball and making it shoot out. That's a scientific approach. Luke, you're a hitter. What is Billy? He's obviously got it working right now, joining the county leaders in home runs with 5. Tell me about his swing.
I think it's a D1 swing. It's so smooth. It's just all the way. And it definitely there's a science to it, and he's got it figured out.
Well, I was impressed with Billy's play on the football field, but he carried over to Dave. You talked about some of his footwork in that game on Thursday at first base. He said he was bringing some of his football skills to the diamond, the way he played defensively.
Absolutely, he definitely was, and it actually brought me back to that championship game. The way he was getting people out at first, I mean, that was the way he was turning it, doing his little toe tap.
Yeah.
And I even heard a little bit of talk from the dugout, actually, from you guys talking about it.
Yeah. Show us your dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was a huge game, but they were right back at it today in another huge game. And the Monte Vista Monarchs, like I said, they probably were pretty upset losing big time, and they came back in a big way and won 7-5 on Friday, throwing a big wrench into this Grossmont Valley League race and saddling you guys with a second loss now. And the Cougars got off to a pretty big lead in that game, 5-0, 5-1. But I want to mention starting pitcher Ivan Canales. He took a comebacker, a line drive right off the head. Everyone had a lot of concern as Ivan went down. He was taken away and I believe went to the hospital and really threw the Cougars' pitching plans into a little bit of a kerfuffle, if you will, because they had to go deep into the bullpen, and the Monarch bats kind of caught up to those arms in the later innings and grabbed a 7-5 victory. TREVOR, how's Ivan? Tell me about the sequence that happened with him, the concern you had, and the relief you had when he returned to the field. I almost think that maybe he will spurred you on in that late inning rally.
Yeah, it was a pretty scary moment when he first got hit, and we didn't really have a pitcher that was supposed to go in that early. We went an inning and third, so we kind of had to put together a pitcher to go out there. He didn't have any warm-up throws or anything, so we just kind of stuck like that, and it kind of messed up our tempo, messed up the way we were gonna pitch. So.
Well, the Monarchs took advantage of that. John Gully had 3 hits, and Andy Canedo came on to pitch 2 1/3 innings of scoreless relief and got out of that jam. Got out of 2 jams, really, in the last inning. And that was a key win for the Monarchs. Keeps them right involved in this Grossmont Valley League race. Trevor, when you're out there, we know how durable you are, and I was pointing out today that you handled about 40% of the team's total innings this year. And that pretty much, I looked at a lot of teams with aces, and the percentage of innings that you're handling really is among the county leaders, and a really durable arm. But I imagine when you get into a little bit of a jam and your pitch count gets up there, and Coach Jesse Evans comes out to see if you're okay, see if you can work out of this jam. As long as there's not a pitch count involved, who's got the call, you or Coach?
Most of the time it's up to me. He comes out there and he asks me, are you good to go? Can you finish the inning or the rest of the game? And most of the time I want to stay out there. You know, I want to try to get those last outs, try to get the team a win. And, yeah.
And Luke, this is your guy. I mean, you handle these guys, and tell me about what makes him special.
He's got a noodle arm. Like, he can go forever. I don't know what it is, but he can just throw it. And we've been working for like 4 years now. We haven't put dial. We know what we're calling. We know what to throw. What to we haven't figured out. That's how we get along.
Somebody's asked you this, Luke. Does he shake you off too often then?
No, not really. We're pretty solid. So.
Nice.
Well, like we said, Trevor threw a complete game. It was 5-3 against the Monarchs, and lowered your ERA on the season to 2.35. So great job there. But tell me, Trevor, about you know that maybe Ivan was maybe our number 2 guy. He was called upon today to pitch in a big game, and it was unfortunate what happened. But we still have some big, important games to go against the Valhalla Norsemen, against the Monte Vista Monarchs, and some other teams. The Cougars pitching, we're waiting for someone to step up. You know these guys. Can you pinpoint someone? Can you motivate these guys? Who is going to carry the load in those games? You guys can't afford to slip up, and you need to win.
We're hoping Noah would come back from his arm injury. We're hoping he'd come back strong to be our second base. And he's slowly coming back into it, pitching an inning here and there. That way he can get balling. Probably after him was supposed to be Ivan. And we got to lean towards the younger pitchers, the juniors. They got to shine. They got to show us what they got.
Sure. Let me mention his name, Noah Nadeau, as the player that we're talking about. If you look at his peripherals, Dave, he's got incredible statistics this season. When he pitches, when he hits, this injury has limited his play, and it would be great to have him in there and working him back into the flow. Go ahead.
And what about the offense? I mean, obviously you got plenty of offense to carry you guys and support the pitching staff. So if you were to have some of those younger guys go in there, you definitely have the support for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Tell me about some of these guys. Luke, you guys were telling me, I asked you about Aaron Taylor as one of the leading hitters in the East County with a .532 batting average. And I said, did you expect this from Aaron this season? You guys said, well, we knew he was going to be good, but we don't know if he was going to be this good, a guy hitting over 500. Yeah. What makes him so special?
He's the leadoff guy. He's our guy, so I don't know what got into him, but he's got it. And last year he was leadoff guy sometimes, but this year he stepped it up. And I don't know, it really just came in and started hitting.
Well, the whole team is hitting about 375 as a whole, and many of the guys are over 400 or high 300s. I'm talking about guys like Richie Pedrin, Matthew Brinkmeyer, Danny Inez, who's up here at the H12 hitting off the hit tracks. We see him. Anthony Mata, he had 4 hits in the game on yesterday, on Thursday, and Eli Page. Just tell me about the production.
Well, we do practice batting every day. We're in the cages, getting BP, and then usually twice a week we have our pitchers throw to us live. So we can work in with live pitchers and see more pitches. So I think that's really helped us this season.
Now, how was it to make the transition? Obviously, having Dan Barrett for 3 years, Coach Dan Barrett, pretty seasoned coach. He's been with Steele Candy for several years now, and then making the transition to Jesse. Are they really that much different as far as coaching style?
Not really. Their first are kind of the same. We've done the same things, kind of same practices. But I think this year we've done more, like what I said, the live DP. We've done that a couple more times. But Jesse was our assistant coach last year, so we didn't have the same ideas about to the table or something.
Well, one more thing before we move along and start recapping some of the other teams. I just want to talk about basically in about a week and a half, you guys are going to have a big rematch with the Valhalla Norsemen, and you're going to need that one, as well as some other things to break your way to get an outright championship. But there's so many games left. But still, I think everyone's going to be pointing to this game because of the series has been so close. You guys have split the two games. Both games are 3-2. Trevor, you started them both. I would expect you will have the ball in that one. I would expect Tanner Smith to have the ball for Valhalla in that one. And you don't want to overlook next week's games, but you guys got to think that Valhalla game is going to be one to decide a lot here in the Grossmont Valley League.
For sure. It's going to come down to who makes the least amount of mistakes, who has the hot bats. It's going to come down to that one tough play. It's going to be another tough rematch. Whenever Tanner's on the mound, we seem to not be able to hit him as well as we could. And I think we're going to come out hot though. They really want to hit off him. We're going to face him 3 times in a row, so I think we're ready.
The H12 Prep Baseball Report. Visit the H12 Sports Academy off of Old Highway 80 in El Cajon. Get lessons from top local instructors. Use our team workout and cage facility specials, newly renovated, for baseball and softball. Plus, have your performance metrics analyzed using patented technology in HitTrax. That's the H12 Sports Academy off of Old Highway 80 in El Cajon. Call Scott Hoppy Hopgood at 619-328-1412. That's the H12 Sports Academy in El Cajon.
All right, now let's take a look at our East County top 5. We already talked about the Cougars. They've moved into a position on our poll because of their success recently, despite what happened on Friday, and we'll cover them in a moment. They're the bottom of our top 5, but certainly have earned their rising ranking. Helix has moved in to the #1 spot this week, taking over for Grossmont by the way of their 3-2 victory over the Foothillers on Friday. Griffin Zamora pitched 6 innings, ran into a little bit of a jam, and Alonzo Richardson came in and picked up another save, but it wasn't without a sweat. The Hillers got 2 men on in the 7th and scored 2 runs, but Zoe, who led off the game with a home run, took care of business and retired the Foothillers, and the Highlanders have supplanted the Foothillers #1 in our poll. Dave, we had kind of been holding out. We kept Grossmont #1 while the rankings and the polls had still had Helix #1, but I think Helix has, even though they were at home, they've earned the spot today to go back up to first.
Yeah, I think they definitely cemented it, and then especially with that, I mean, they scored those 3 runs early, and then in the 7th, I believe, it was the Foothillers scoring, and they came up a little short, especially with that throw from Peterson to the plate.
That's right. Keone Valdez singled, but Brandon Peterson ended up throwing out the potential tying run at the plate, and that ended the game. That was the Highlanders' 3rd win of the week as they moved into first place with a 3-1-1 record. The Eagles and the Foothillers are both 3-2, so you can see how close it is right there. Because the Highlanders swept El Capitan before defeating the Foothillers this week. In 2 earlier games, they played 3 games for the week. Helix and Grossmont will meet again on Tuesday at Gazzoni Field, so don't be surprised. Let's see what happens in that game. Who's going to be #1 next week? We're kind of going back and forth. I don't think we know. Helix will also face Granite Hills next week in 2 games after that, so a huge sequence of games for the Highlanders next week.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned that too, because and then we'll actually get into them. I was speaking with James Davis on the way up here about his win over El Capitan today, and that's exactly what he was speaking about, was how tight it's going to be in these next couple of weeks, facing each other week by week and a couple of times.
don't lose on the road. That's critical. We know that. And so, Dave, we've had the Foothillers now at number 2, and they did play a game that they won earlier this week. They played Ramona on Tuesday. I wanted to mention left-hander Drew Shervanian pitched a complete game shutout in the 2-0 win. So, all's good with Grossmont. These are just some big games. Also, want to mention Joe Williams came out of the bullpen and threw 2 hitless innings against the Highlanders today. You talked about Granite Hills and that game against El Capitan today. They beat them 4-2, or Friday, if you're watching this. Granite Hills beat El Capitan 4-2 as Clay Fordham pitched 4 innings of 1-hit ball in relief to earn the win. He also doubled and scored twice. He might be doing a little more hitting than his dad used to do. I mean, Tommy Fordham, the former major leaguer, he was a pretty good hitter at Granite, but Clay might have a little of both. I don't know if he'll ever surpass Tommy's success on the mound getting to the major leagues, but right now Clay's doing a great job.
Clay's doing a fantastic job over there, and as well as Mr. Finn. And we go back a game against Santana when they faced Santana 2 games ago. They faced a young Glowacki from Santana, and they were able to, Santana rather, was able to hold on with Timmy Tischer coming to the rescue and scoring the final run. The thing was, I asked James Davis about it, and he was saying, really we can't make those critical errors at the end of the game, when we're facing teams that we need to be beating, like Santana. And he said they are very scrappy, and they do have a lot of talent.
Well, you had mentioned that Santana win over Granite Hills, and they beat Trevor Hazelhurst, and that kind of was impressive to you. Dave, you mentioned Jake Fenn, and talk about armchair experts. Here I was touting Fenn as the premier reliever in the East County because statistically he had proven it. And Coach Davis, he threw me a little curveball, if you will, and Jake's been actually in the starting rotation now over the last couple of games, and he's done very well. So they've mixed things up over there a little bit at Granite, and they're 3-2 in second place, tied with Grossmont.
Yeah, he's, James was saying he likes to shift things up, and but again, he reiterated over and over about it's going to come to those last couple of weeks at the end of the season, and that there's just a really good crop of East County teams.
Well, it looks like the Eagles are kind of loading up on that pitching depth. So it's going to be real interesting to see if they can stay in this race with Grossmont and Helix. I expect them to do so, and it's going to come down to those games.
Well, and then what he also mentioned is what's been hurting the Eagles, unfortunately, has been the defense, which typically hasn't been their thorn in their side. It's definitely always been one of their premier, if you will.
Well, let's get our guests back involved in the conversation a little bit. Let's talk about the Grossmont Valley League, and right now the team everybody's talking about, and the team that's moved up in our poll, probably because of my number 4 ranking of the Valhalla Norsemen. You didn't have Valhalla in your top 5, so because they got the 2 points from me and the 0 for you, they moved into 4th. And I understand where you're coming from because Valhalla's had a few more cracks at the bottom feeders in the Grossmont Valley League. Teams that you guys are going to play a few more games against and will continue to win. Like I said, can't afford any slip-ups, but right now the Valhalla Norsemen sitting in first place, 7-1, a game ahead in the loss column against both the Cougars and the Monte Vista Monarchs. It's Valhalla making that rapid rise as they had blown through the easier part of the schedule. The Norsemen won 3 games this week. Coach Wheeler really has the team, it looks like, in overdrive. Tanner Smith pitched a 2-hit shutout versus West Hills on Tuesday, and junior Austin Scribner drove in 8 runs in a 4-inning win over El Cajon Valley on Wednesday. Cole Howard drove in 5 runs on Thursday. Joseph Ingracia pitched 6 innings of 1-hit ball with 10 strikeouts in a 10-1 win over the Braves. Dave, you got to give the Valhalla Norsemen a little bit of respect, but still you have them, because of maybe the strength of schedule, just outside of your top 5.
And that's exactly it, is the strength of schedule. I mean, we'll see when they actually start playing some of the heavy hitters coming up this week, when they start playing Monte Vista, when they start playing these Cougars here, then I think we can talk apples and apples.
Sure. And Santana, we'll mention them, that they're just on the cusp. They are your number 5 team and just outside for me. They're 2-3-1 in the Grossmont Hills League. You have the balance of power right now in the Hills League, and I think that's why, even though the Sultans have just won 2 of their last 9 games, including a tie, let's give them some credit. They're just off of that for me because of the losses, but they're still playing a tough schedule. El Capitan is also in the section power ratings mix with teams like Steele Canyon, Valhalla, and Monte Vista based on their strength of schedule, but they've been playing some tough Hills League competition. I do want to mention, however, that University of Arizona-bound star Blake Payton was our athlete of the week last week for those great performances that he had against the Sultans when the Vaqueros swept the Sultans. He did it one game with the bat and one game on the mound. So El Capitan is going to need to turn around. They're almost eliminated from serious contention in the Hills League. West Hills has put together some impressive wins of late, and that's going to be of concern to our friends, the Steele Canyon Cougars, who have a few games left with the Wolfpack. Reliable Drew Ridiak got a spot start on Thursday and led the Wolfpack over Mount Miguel with 6 scoreless innings, ran into a little bit of trouble, but they won the game easily. And then on Friday, the Pack blitzed the Matadors again as Chris Larry Schrader had 4 RBI and Gavin Condra had 3 RBI on Friday. West Hills, they're definitely separating themselves from the bottom 2 teams, working themselves maybe in a little bit of contention, but definitely playing well enough to give these guys and the other teams a scare on the rest of their schedule.
Absolutely. I mean, they started off a little, they sputtered at the beginning, but they slowly put up some steam, and I would definitely say that they could be a threat to the title, but it still is going to come through Steele Canyon or Valhalla.
No doubt about it, no doubt about it. You guys will play West Hills a couple of more times. You can't take anybody lightly in this conference. I understand those bottom 2 teams, but West Hills has been playing a little better. You know anything about West Hills, Luke?
Not much, but I'm excited to play them. I'm ready.
Trevor?
We just got to play our ball the way we know how to play.
Steele's got to do what Steele does.
That was a quote I think I read the other day that somebody had. We just got to play Steele Canyon baseball. Yeah, but you definitely took it to the Monarchs ace and knocked him out of the game, so that had to give you guys some confidence.
Yeah, I don't know his last name, but he's been pretty good for them, I've heard. And we got him out, but we couldn't put it together at the very end.
Sure, Ivan Plazola, one of the top pitchers certainly in the East County. So,
the H12 Prep Baseball Report. Visit the H12 Sports Academy off of Old Highway 80 in El Cajon. Get lessons from top local instructors. Use our team workout and cage facility specials, newly renovated, for baseball and softball. Plus, have your performance metrics analyzed using patented technology in HitTrax. That's the H12 Sports Academy off of Old Highway 80 in El Cajon. Call Scott Hoppy Hopgood at 619-328-1412. That's the H12 Sports Academy in El Cajon.
Well, it was another good week for the Foothills Christian Knights as they definitely played themselves right into contention in their new Pacific League. In fact, they're in first place by half a game right now after sweeping Tri-City Christian this week. It was a big week for Trevor Smallwood, the senior. He had 2 RBI and a 6-4 win on Tuesday, then delivered a complete game shutout on Thursday, a 3-0 win as he struck out 10 and had an RBI in that one. And Dave, I heard from a source that Trevor will likely be the East County Sports Athlete of the Week next week. What a week he had, and what a week for the Knights. They're definitely in title contention with Classical Academy in this Pacific League.
Yeah, you know, I was talking with Coach Dave Lewis, and he was saying the same thing. I mean, it was actually a good move for them, and I mean, ever since they got their 3 that were sitting out for the season, their transfers, they've really put it together. I think it's 3 or 4 wins, 3 or 4 straight wins now for the Knights, and yeah, that what Trevor put together the other day was magnificent. And I definitely think that they have a good shot at winning that league for sure.
Well, and I took a look at them because, you know, there was some things happening with our bottom teams in the top 5, and although Foothills Christian in the power rankings are behind teams such as Steele Canyon, Valhalla, Monte Vista, El Capitan, and Santana, despite the fact that they're in a lower division, they are really right on the edge of all those teams because of their good win-loss record. So I think they're getting the respect that they deserve, and I think they're obviously a championship contender in their division. First things first, they're going to focus on that league, and they've got big games left with Classical Academy and some of the other teams, including Maranatha Christian, in that league. It was a real tough week for our Christian Patriots, however. They were swept by the Scripps Ranch Falcons. That threw a major dent into their league title chances. They may have to win out now just to maybe even share for the league title. There's still a lot of baseball to be played, but they're going to play a two-game series with first place Cathedral Catholic, who's playing well, who won again today, on Friday, and they'll probably need to sweep that. And then they've got 2 games with Madison left, as well as Scripps Ranch again and another league game. So that's going to be an important series, and unfortunately for Christian, it's a tough league, and these were some critical losses against a team that they probably felt like they were supposed to beat.
Yeah, I think they should have at least split, and I think that was Coach Mitchell's whole idea, was to at least split with Scripps Ranch, and for them to lose those 2, that definitely has put them on the cusp of possibly falling out of league contention. So like you mentioned, Ramon, they have to pretty much win out. They might be able to lose 1 or 2 here and there, but they definitely got to put some more coal inside.
Well, that's going to do it for us this week on the Prep Baseball Report. We're out here at H12 Sports Academy off of Old Highway 80 in El Cajon. Call Scott Hoppy Hopgood. Come in and take some swings off the hit tracks. We saw Luke in there earlier working on his exit velocity. Mostly, I think, with Luke as his specialty there, and staying low on that ball and hitting line drives. And you got to see this technology. Even a hitter like myself or Dave can get in there and see what we need to work on. But anyway, I want to thank all of our sponsors in this week's show: Al's Sports Shop, Nicolosi's Italian Restaurant, sponsor of the Athlete of the Week, and Retro Sports. Be sure to join us next week, once again, on the H12 Prep Baseball Report.
The H12 Prep Baseball Report.